keep your camera on or off if you prefer. Some people prefer to have it turned off throughout. I think sometimes it can work a little bit better if you have it turned off, but it is up to yourselves which you prefer to do. Throughout this webinar, I'm just going to be admitting people in. So if at some instances I look to be a little bit distracted, it's just because I'm letting more people inside the webinar. At the end of this webinar, you will have an opportunity to ask questions. So I will pause at the end, and I'm just admitting more people in here now. I will pause at the end and allow you to ask questions. Please do as well have people, please do write into the chat box. Okay, so if you have a particular question throughout as I'm speaking, or maybe something I'm saying sparks you to think of a question, please do type it into the chat box. Also, because this is live, if there is an instance with sound, if you can't hear me or maybe you can't see me, not as important, but particularly if you can't hear me, please do write into the chat box and let me know, and I will be able to get you on there. So I'm just admitting more people in, and we'll get started now in a moment. Basically, what you should all be seeing, I'm just going to make sure I have my Zoom up here. What you should be seeing is the resources. Apologies now. You should be all seeing the resources homepage of my DMI. Okay, so you should be all looking at that. I'm going to take you through that initially, and then I'm going to move on to your actual course context and what's involved in your course and information you can get. So a lot of you would have joined in July, so you're all July starters. If you're not and you joined in a later time, you may be, or an earlier time, you might have joined in June. That's totally fine. It'll be useful as well. So I'm going to run through what your course homepage looks like, what the actual resources homepage looks like, and then we'll have an option for questions as well. But as I say, do please write into the chat box if you think of a question or you're kind of worried or concerned about something. Please do write in. We have webinars throughout the month, so there will be weekly webinars for pro students like yourselves. I imagine most of you are on DMI Pro. Some of you might also be on a specialism. That's totally fine as well. But we will have weekly webinars for you. And then at the end of the month, we will have a specific exam-based webinar. So that will kind of be focused completely and totally on the exam. So I'm not going to go too much into exam detail in this welcome webinar. It's more so just getting you used to the platform and making sure you're comfortable using it. Okay, so the first thing, a lot of you also will have already received access to this, and you would have already been using this, but I'm just going to run through it quickly with you now. So your first homepage, the first thing you're going to see is what's trending. So what's happening right now, basically the latest blog post. Okay, so it's about WordPress and SEO. And then the other thing you'll see over at the right are featured blog posts. Okay, so they might be blog posts, or they might be a showcase here, or they could be something to do with e-commerce, content marketing. This is a new forecasting tool. So this is basically your trending topics, your hot topics, or things that have come up recently. As I scroll down, you can have a view of all the podcasts, upcoming events. So you all have the opportunity now, as you're part of the DMI community, you have the opportunity to attend our live webinars, okay? And you can see what's upcoming. You can also view past webinars. If you click through here and follow the link, you'll have access to all of those. Further down, you'll see loads of videos, articles, presentations. The content in the actual, we call it the library, is really vast. So you're probably not going to get through it through your 24 weeks here at DMI, and that's totally okay. Use it to your advantage. If you're into taking micro lessons on something you're particularly interested in, or toolkits, presentations, whatever you particularly have an interest in or have a want to learn about, you can kind of forecast it or go through it that way. What I will say most students find really useful are the walkthroughs. So if I just type in up here, walk through, you'll see I will get results. results search there that comes through how to align keywords to your website, Twitter ads, Snapchat, YouTube, Google, optimize for A/B testing, SEO, and Google Ads. Okay, sorry, I'm just admitting someone there. So that's a really good place to get a kind of a practical hands-on on using things like Google Ads or LinkedIn ads or Facebook ads, because Cathal Meelan is the man who runs a lot of these walkthroughs, and you will become very familiar with him as you're going through the course. But he runs through step-by-step process and actually brings you're able to see a sandbox, so like a built-in account of Google Ads that he'll bring you through. So it can be quite useful if you haven't had any hands-on practical experience with using these tools such as Google Ads or Facebook Business Manager. The walkthroughs can be a really nice thing to go through and kind of have a look at. The other thing that's very good for beginners and for starting out is the glossary. When you're going through your modules, you're going to find a lot of words that you have never heard before or that you just do not understand. And digital marketing has a lot of acronyms. You may or may not already know. It has a lot of words that maybe you haven't heard before or just that do not really make a lot of sense to you. So if you go through here, for instance, A/B testing, ad click, some are a little bit more obvious, but also some like ad impression. You know, if you had never come across that before or never heard that word, you don't know what that metric is, what the definition of it is. So it's a really good idea to go through your glossary and get an overview there. So I'm going to bring you into your course homepage. When you click in, you're going to be on this one. The majority of you viewing here will be in DMI Pro, okay? So I click in here and I can see I've got my candidate ID, my course expiry date, and this isn't filled in for me. This will come up for you around week 4 to 6, okay? So on around 4 to 6 of your week 4 to 6 of your journey with DMI, you will get an exam voucher and an exam voucher email and code. I will go through all of that at the end of the month. Right now, I'm not going to focus too much on exam queries because this is more of a welcome and an overview, but I will go through that more in detail at the end of the month. But just so you're aware, this is where it's going to appear, okay? As I go through my modules, I can see them all laid out here in front of me. You should have your, I'm just admitting Cedric there, okay? So you should have 10 modules, okay? Up at the very top, and it's kind of easy to miss this, but up at the top, you'll see your class forum, your course info page, and practice tests. So it's kind of easy just to go, you know, straight down here into my module and forget about what's happening up at the top. So really important to go through this information, particularly your course info page. And I'm just going to go through a little bit of that with you right now. When I go in here, I can see I've got introduction, exam, booking, lots of things on exam there, program structure, certificate information. Okay, so this holds a lot of the kind of just basic teething questions that you have when you're starting a new course, because a lot of you will come into it and just be going, you know, how do I do X, Y, and Z? And a lot of those answers you'll find in your course info page. So please do take the time even before you start going through the content or as you're going through it, but ideally before, to read through this information, okay? Because it does really give you a good overview and it kind of stops you from having to go halfway through the course and then realize, oh, I don't know this or I don't know that. So it's really good to get that overview before you get into it. You all probably know that you have 24 weeks to complete your course and the exam. So really important to remember that your exam is included in those 24 weeks. A lot of the time, I think people may think you have 24 weeks and then you do an exam. That's not the case. You have to do your exam within those 24 weeks. So just important to note that, okay? So the program structure itself is all about you and how you manage your time. So this is self-directed learning, basically meaning that it's independent learning. You do have a host of supports here that I'll go through a bit more in detail, and you also have your class forum, but primarily this is independent learning, which is probably, you know, why you signed up for this. It suits a lot of you for, you know, a lot of different reasons, lifestyle. A lot of you may have kids, you may be working full-time, you may be in education, a different education full-time. So for flexibility, a lot of people go with this kind of structure, but it's just important to remember that it is self-directed. And there is information here in support. You're not going to be completely abandoned either. We do have a tutor team, and these webinars, also your support, your class forum, there will be ways to contact us when you need to. So when there's a need to, particularly around admin issues or even around the actual context of the modules itself, you will always have access to reach out to us. So we're there with you in a sense. So yeah, basically this goes through the topics that we cover, goes through in the interactive quizzes. So a lot of the time, what students really value the most about the modules is the fact that there's practical elements to it. Because I think if you're going through something like digital marketing and you don't have access to those practical tools, you're at a little bit of a disadvantage. So we make sure in each module that you have access to practical exercises at the end of each of your module. And if you go through those practical exercises, you'll kind of get it better, just an insight into how some of the tools work, and you'll feel a little bit more confident when you're using it even in your own job or in a job that you want to apply to afterwards. And this is on the exam, so I'm not going to go too heavy into that right now, but just basically to show you everything you need to know. A lot of the admin related stuff more so is there and is kind of available to you. So please do take the time to read that. I'm just going to go back to where I was there a moment. The second thing I want to show you that's quite important is your practice tests. Okay, so you may kind of think, you know, I've just signed up, I'm brand new, like I'm not prepared to take any tests. But this test is graded, but it doesn't go towards anything. Okay, so this is a practice test for you that you can take as many times as you like. And it's actually a really, really good, sorry, I'm just admitting someone there. It's actually a very good learning tool because you're able to take it, it analyzes your score, and it shows you exactly what areas you're weaker on, okay? So maybe you don't want to take it straight away before actually getting into any of the modules. That's no problem. It's also important to note that your results of these practice tests do not mean anything and do not go towards any exam result at the end, okay? So they're not part of your course in a sense that they don't matter, the mark of them does not matter or go towards your final exam, but they're really useful for you as a tool to analyze, okay, you know, I'm really doing well in social media marketing, but I'm not so great at SEO. Okay, so it gives you the option to kind of analyze where you're good and where you're faltering. So if I click in here, it should bring me down to the bottom, and then I can agree and start your practice exam. And you can do this as many times as you like. Okay, so there's no cap on that, which is really helpful because you'll find that you'll do it and you'll get to a certain level, and then you'll go back and you get higher and higher each time. There is another test that you can do, which is not as tailored towards your exam, but it is more broad sense of digital marketing, or kind of what kind of sense you have of digital marketing on a broader scale and less focused on your actual exam. And that's the skills test that you can get here. So if I just click in here, it brings me to the digital marketing skills test. And then up here, I can view all results as well. Okay, so that's a really useful tool if you're kind of wondering, I'd just like to know, to benchmark what my skill is, because some of you may come in with absolutely very little to none to know digital marketing skills, and some of you may come in with quite a lot already, and you're maybe looking, or maybe some of you had a lot and then took a break in your career and are now looking to go back into digital marketing because, as you know, it's really popular right now, particularly with everyone working from home and everything becoming so digital. A lifestyle of digital nomads and traveling and working from home and being able to kind of call different places your office is a really, really popular lifestyle. And, you know, hopefully with Pro and with DMI, you can kind of get yourself there, and it'll help you on in that journey of kind of just creating a lifestyle that you'd like, or upskilling your already knowledge in digital marketing. On the subject of testing and practice exams, I just want to take you to one other place. If I go to support, or sorry, actually not support, if I type in, or down here, if I type in exam prep, okay, it should bring me, and I go search, it should bring me to a compiled area of all your practice exams, or your practice exercises. So as you're going through the modules, as I was saying earlier, you will come up with areas where you have access to different tools and like Google Ads, or kind of the more practical elements of it. I'm just admitting, sorry, one more person there. So as you're going through it, you'll have them all scattered around in different modules, but you will want a place where they're all compiled in one, and you can get that here. Okay, so if I went to practice exam area and I went to version 8, now this is actually the previous version. So I think if I go back here and go into practice exam test, sorry, now I think they have actually updated this to the latest version. So I just want to make sure. Okay. Yeah, okay, so that's practice exam. Okay, well, they don't have it currently. Apologies, currently we're updating basically the quizzes that we have here are from Pro 8, so it's just the version before what you guys are on. All of the quizzes are very, very similar. They're more updated in 9, but they're very, very similar. And momentarily, we're going to be basically putting in the version 9 into this as well. So you will have that updated version of the tool. But just so you're aware, if you wanted to go somewhere where all questions are compiled, you go to support and then go into your exam prep area. And also, this is really helpful for specialist students. So I know the majority of you are probably on the pro course, which is, you click here. But if you are on a strategy and planning, or you're on a social media marketing specialism, or you're on a search marketing specialism, this is the place to go. So your tailored exam is very much focused here. And the questions that we ask at the end of the modules and in the practical exercises are tailored to be really similar to the questions on your exam. So we do that for a reason, because we want to give you the best chance possible at passing. And the pass rate that we have is really high. It's up in the 80s. So the likelihood of you passing on your first attempt of the exam is very, very high, particularly if you use these tools. So the practice tests, the exam prep area, and also the skills test. But particularly for specialism students, if any of you are on here or will be watching, this is going to be recorded, I should also say. So if you're watching later, please do check out these in the exam prep area, because that's really, really useful place for you to go to as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to our course homepage, and I'm just going to take you through just a little bit into the kind of nitty-gritties of what's going on in the modules. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. Let's go into PPC, because I feel like digital marketing is kind of, I don't know, when I worked in digital marketing, so much was spent in PPC and Google Ads. So I feel like this is a good place to go to. So one thing I'll say is, as you're going through each of these modules, it's really important that you click next topic. This is kind of an admin thing. It's not very interesting, but it's important to note. If you click next topic, and I click that here, and you can see I have this tick, okay? So you need to have this tick at every single heading and every single lesson, okay? Because what that tick means is that you have progressed to a certain amount in the module, and it'll mark that. So if you have half the ticks marked, it'll say 50%. But if, let's say, you've already watched it, but you do not have a tick beside it, even though you've technically completed it, the system will not register it and it will not update. So it'll look like you've only done, let's say, 80%, or sometimes a lot of students get like 60, 70% modules complete, and they're going, how did this happen? I've, watched everything. And I go in and check, and it's because you do not have that tick beside it. Okay, so just do remember to get that. You have to click on it and then click next topic. Okay. Also good to know for students where English is your second language, you can put on captions. Okay. And you have an option of Brazil, Portuguese, or English. Okay. So it's important to note that you can put captions on, because sometimes if you're listening to someone speak and English is not your first language, you're kind of giving yourself two jobs, because you're already translating, and then beyond translating, you're trying to retain information in not your foreign tongue. Okay, so it's quite difficult to do that. So the option to put on captions is really useful. You also have the option here in settings to slow down. Okay, so if you find that a speaker, I might actually just turn off. I don't think you can hear when I play, but if you find that the speaker is speaking very quickly, okay, and you have your captions up, but you're still finding it quite hard to follow, you can go here and you can change the speed, okay? So change your speed here if you need to. Very useful as well for English speakers of English is their second language. Down below, we have module slides, study notes, module transcripts, and glossary of terms. So a lot of people wonder, how do you study? How do I get all this information in my head? What's the best approach? And it's a hard question to answer because there is no one solution. A lot of people find, particularly again for speakers of where English is not their first language, they download the module transcripts. And the module transcript will give you every single word, okay, what is said in those videos on paper. Other people find the study notes more helpful. The study notes is not identical to the actual modules itself, but the study notes is almost like an abridged version of what you're reading, and will kind of give you sometimes more information on it as well, or will kind of break it down. So people find that useful. Some people just like to download the module slides themselves, and then they can kind of watch it in their own time, or maybe watch it on their phone or other things like that. So how you approach the study is very much up to what kind of learner you are. Are you someone who needs to have things physically on paper, which a lot of people do, and a lot of students go and print out all the study notes, or they print out all the transcripts and do it that way? Or are you someone who's much more comfortable using an iPad and they download everything onto their iPad and they read through it that way? Or maybe you just actually like the way of doing it as is and going through each module and going through the quizzes and the practical exercises. So it is up to you on your approach. There is no harm with trying something and going, this isn't working, I'm going to switch it up and do something else. But the one thing I would say is that having a steady and often approach is the best way to do it. So as hard as that can be sometimes, because life does get in the way, please try and do have an hour or less, a half an hour each day that you can dedicate to this, because an hour may be a bit ambitious, but a half an hour even in the evenings, and then maybe on other days you can do a little bit more, because you don't want to leave something build up and then have to kind of cram in at the last minute. This gives you a little bit on Cathal, and he is the same man I was talking about earlier in your walkthrough, so you can find him there or also here. Bonus content, this is all pulled in from your library, and I was showing you there earlier, your DMI library is located. I'm just going to actually duplicate that, and then we can go to our library. Up here, okay, so our resources, okay, this is our library. So everything that you see down here, article, toolkit, video, webinar, these are all pulled in from your resource center, okay, your resource library, which is here. And they're not necessary to complete the course, okay, so these are not compulsory, you do not have to do them, but they can be quite useful, especially if you're someone who is interested in this area, or maybe has a friend or colleague or thinks it would be good for work for practical reasons. It can be really interesting in that way. So, and this again is more information about the module itself and about Cathal. Okay, so that kind of gives you a good rundown of the mechanics of actually using, and every module will be the same. Obviously, the information is completely different on every module, but I mean the layout and the structure in terms of the resources that you have. You'll have obviously different bonus content as well, but the actual structure of the modules are very similar. So the last thing I want to show you just before you guys might have any questions. If you don't have questions right now, but you do later, you can post them into your class forum, or you can write them into us, and I'm going to show you where to go to do that. Okay, so if you go to support and then go down here, so we try and encourage people to search support. Okay, so it's just search your query before you actually contact us, because more often than not, your answer is already there. So if it's not in your course info page that I was showing you earlier, it could be down here, okay, in featured articles. So these are different ones. But if you're thinking, okay, I've had a look in the support, I've had a look in my course info page, I've even looked on my class forum, or maybe you asked the question in your class forum, if it is a general question. If it is a personal question to you, the best place to ask then is your contact, okay? So click in here, and before you actually get to your form, it's asking you exam questions. So we do get a lot of questions, particularly from pro students, relating to the exam itself, okay? So if it is not answered in common queries or anywhere else, you can go down here. And basically it's asking you, is it related to, which area of content is it related to? So assignment, certification, course, general, okay? And you can fill in down here. The one thing I would say to make life as easy as possible for you and for ourselves as well who are getting the queries, please do include as much information as possible in it, and please also include any attachments. Okay, so if it makes sense to include a screen grab of what you're looking at, or if you're referencing something from the module that doesn't make sense to you, a screen grab of that just makes your life and our lives a lot easier. So do include that as well if you can. And basically you can just forward on the whole thing there into your forum. I just want to show you as well the community forum. So this is like the larger area of your classroom forum. So everything goes here, okay? And you can see one of the most common and popular threads we have is about the exam. It's about passing, it's about exam tips. So students are very good, they're very friendly, and they really want to help each other out. So you'll often see very large threads on here with students saying, I've passed, and this is how I passed, and here are some tips. And students help each other out. So that's a really positive thing. But you'll also see other things like this, for instance, organic followed by paid, Google search results. So just students posting questions, queries, or they're unsure about something. Should I print all the documents? So this is one referring to a student who was thinking, do I need to print all of these study notes? Do I need to print all the transcripts? So it's a really open forum area to ask any question at all. So speaking of questions, I'm just going to see if any of you guys, I can see one came in there from Irene and Danny. Yeah, please do, if you guys have more questions on this or anything in particular, send it on here. And if you do not, then you can ask them in the forum. You will have questions as you start going through the module. This is just an introduction, so don't feel pressurized to ask anything right now. So Irene, when I should book my exam if my course starts 1st of June and ends 16th of November. So yeah, so as I was saying, most of the exam questions I will talk more about at the end of the month, but we do advise students to book their exam around week 16. Okay, so if your course started the 1st of June, that's your week 1. And we advise students to book their exam in the middle, more or less. So you're looking at week 16 to book, okay? So if you're starting in June, you're ending in November, I'm guessing week 16 is around, that's around September-ish. Now this is, my maths are not amazing, but it's week 16, okay, is when we advise to do it. So in the middle, we advise students to book a little bit earlier, because that means in the case that you do not pass on your first attempt, you more than likely will. But in the case that you do not pass, you will have the option to rebook, okay? And to book again, you get 3 attempts to pass. But as I say, I'm going to go through more exam stuff later in the week. Danny, the videos modules are rewatchable. Yes, they are. So the videos that we looked at there, which was in courses and in here, these are all something that you can download through the module slides. So I think if you go to the bottom and you see module slides, you can download from there and pause that. So you can download your module slides here, and then you should have them saved on your PC or your iPad or wherever you watch, and you'll be able to watch from there. Okay, so oh, I can just see chat there. Would you recommend a daily learning approach rather than a day once a week? Yeah, I think it really depends on you, but personally, I would. Yeah, if it was me approaching this course because I know that little and often suits me best, I would say it's easier to make a habit of it if it's daily. But if daily is a bit intimidating or time-wise that just doesn't make sense for you, you could look at every second day. Okay, so it doesn't need to be daily, but maybe every second day or every third day, or you're going 3 times a week. So 3 times a week, every Mondays, Thursdays, and Sundays are my, whatever way you want to do it, my DMI evening, where I spend an hour or maybe 2 hours on the information and see how I go. So you'll get a sense of how you're doing through the quizzes in the actual course stuff itself and in the practice test that I was showing you guys earlier. So once you kind of get into a flow of things and you do a couple of practice tests, you'll know from there whether your particular approach to it is working or not. I don't seem to have a candidate ID. Does this matter? No, that's fine, Rhiannon. We will, if you don't have it in there at the moment, it's probably because you're a new student or you started very recently. You do have one, it's just probably not on display for you. So you have one located in your back end, which is basically where we store all the student information. So once we have your email and you're actually on the course itself, you do automatically have a candidate ID. So if it hasn't populated for you yet, that's totally fine, but you do have one. And module transcript is what we have seen in the video, but it is written correct. Yes, Amen. Sorry about the pronunciation now if I'm pronouncing these wrong. That's correct. So what you have in the module transcript is everything that is being spoken. Okay, so what is being the speech, what is being spoken in the video itself, you will see that written in the transcript. So as I was saying, it's very good for learners of whose English is not their first language. It can be really useful. And if you know, the more questions, as I say, you will have more questions as you're going through this modules. And when you do, look towards your support, look towards your class forum, towards your course info page, and then also towards contacting us directly, okay? And this will be recorded too, so all the information here you will also have access to also. And I'm just going to, if no one has any more questions, I'm going to close out this now in 2 moments, if I can find if I can. That's lovely. Okay. Oh, actually, there's one more. I just see that's probably someone saying contact directly through email. Yes, sorry, Danny. You can contact us directly through the support form, which comes through to our email service desk. So I'm going to just show you quickly, because you may not have seen it, where that is. So that's when you go to resources. Sorry, you want to find your support. Okay, so click here, support, and then go to, scroll down here, and you will see contact. Okay, so if you click contact there, you will be able to get us there. Okay, and we will be able to reply to you, okay, from that contact form. That's probably the best way to get access to us. But thank you so much for coming and for staying with me. And as I say, this will be recorded, so you will have the option to watch it back when you need to. Okay, and I'm just going to check this just in case. Thank you, that's fine, no problem, Nina. And if anyone has any more questions, as I say, we'll be able to answer them again. So thanks so much, and I will talk to you all soon, probably in the forums. Okay, bye-bye.